Welcome to Lovesick, the podcast where we dive into health, wellness, and relationships and their impact on the world today. Come be a part of the discussion and join our community by following us on YouTube, Instagram, and listening wherever you get your favorite podcast. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Lovesick, the podcast. I'm Michael, and with me are my amazing co-hosts, as always, Dorothea and Jada. Today, we have a truly multi-hyphenated talent, someone who is here to do kind of a little bit of everything. She's a singer, a songwriter, an amazing performer, an actress, just a dancer. I mean, pretty much everything you can do from a theatrical and musical standpoint. We have Vivian Nicole Tesler here with us.
Hello.
Thank you.
Welcome to Lovesick.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. Obviously to share my story, but to be with all of you.
So with everything you've done, we both kind of joked about starting as babies, starting super young. Where did this journey as a performer begin for you?
So if I have to take it really back, it started very much within competitive dance and, doing the school plays and, those when you grow up, your parents put you in all of those see where the kid goes, see where the kid, is liking this or liking that. And it really, really took off for me very, very quickly. So, naturally there was an inclination there, and I was, invited to do, more classes and, let's give her this, a solo, and all of these wonderful things that happens to a kid when they start in entertainment. And that eventually led to the lovely world of auditions. And we were talking about it before, but I was in Toronto most of my life. So it was all essentially in Toronto. So I was doing commercials and, there were shows like in Toronto called YTV, like kids shows, and I was on those. I did try out for Degrassi, but that didn't happen.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
I know, it's like a quintessential thing that when you're from Toronto, I mean,
You'd be hanging with Drake.
of course. And I do have stories about the Degrassi kids because I came out for pilot season in LA and they were all here.
Really?
But yeah, it was very, but I was doing a lot of the YTV, it was a kid show kind of thing. And then also participating in musical theater, which eventually, went to a normal high school. I went to an arts elementary school, then a normal high school, and then eventually it led me to theater school. So I went to two theater schools in Toronto that were very similar to Juilliard's. Did very, very well there. I got in very quickly out of high school. I actually didn't even have to finish high school because I got into these schools. And that went beautifully. It went beautifully, and I graduated from those, went off to New York with my mother, got in the car right after theater school, and we started doing the audition train. And I ended up booking 2 off-Broadway shows with no agent, no manager, just as a Canadian kid that had a big dream. I actually couldn't do those because they had found out that I have no visa.
Gotta do it.
I was like gung-ho. Yes. I remember getting backstage, like the magazine or New York, what is it? It was a magazine.
It's like a publication?
Publication,
yeah,
back then. Yep. And I circled all these open calls. And I went out and I booked them. So it was 2 of them, the lead-in 2 of them. So anyways, that happened. And what brought me back to Toronto was after that, I said, I actually need American representation. It was very hard at that time.
I don't think people realize it was almost impossible. I mean, it was brutal.
Brutal.
And you jumped over something that is so impressive that I just kind of want to highlight, having been in the business, is Vivian walked into open calls and literally won. This is like, it's very much like when I started, I went on an audition. There was like 10,000 people for this show because I didn't realize somebody else had done the pilot.
Yeah.
Those big, massive open calls, first of all, they're stacked kind of in the favor of people who either have been around for a long time or people who have big representation. And I think outside the business, people don't realize that. So what you did is you showed up, showed out, showed everybody your talent. And it's one of those things that I think, you said it very humbly, but people don't realize hundreds or thousands of people or tens of thousands of people show up. And most people don't make it past the first couple minutes, right? Let alone to be continuing through that process and then to book it, which also had to be kind of heartbreaking when they're like, but you don't have a visa. Now they would probably just get you a visa. In those days, it was
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
impossible to do.
Impossible. Yeah.
And that's a different time when people were actually going on auditions. So that's like time consuming because we're looking at it now. It's like Zoom, whatever,
Yeah.
real quick. And it
That's
takes
like
I also
self-tape.
think it takes away from really displaying like your talents, just
Right.
anyone going out to do like Zoom auditions. And so, I mean, that's a lot of work in itself just to
True.
travel and go out there.
I need you guys like in my house every day and just telling me how awesome I am.
No,
I
it's
know.
huge.
Thank
And in those old days backstage where you had to like flip through the things
you
and
know.
circle all these things. I mean,
Yeah.
when you wanted work, and look, I went through a period after working on Roseanne for a little while where I didn't have an agent and I really did go that route and and then people were like, hey, wait a minute. Which is kinda similar to, hey, wait a minute. How come you don't have a big name behind you? Or how come, right? And
Right.
so representation matters, especially in those days. Then there was a little period where there was kind of this grace period, and now we're kind of back to the who's your team kind of question.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a very different thing, and it's a huge. What it speaks of is how much talent you have.
And also how much determination.
Yes,
she has to
determination,
do it. 'Cause the
motivation.
drive
Yes,
is huge.
exactly.
Oh, I think that really is super helpful because that's like everything.
Yeah.
When you feel like you want to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
There is that fire which
Right.
hasn't burned out. It's probably brighter even now than it was back then, which it's crazy to say because I did all of those. I think it was the drive, the evidence was there, which allowed my parents to continue the allowance of it.
Right.
But I was my mom wasn't a stage mom, and my dad was, just on for the ride. But the evidence was there, so they continue to allow it to flourish.
Right.
And when I went and did all of these things, I was in the driver's seat. I was the one saying to my parents, we have to go get in the car. We have to go to we have to get an agent in the States. And now it's like you said, it's a different story. Self-tapes, you can hop on over. I still think it's a little tough with the Canadians.
It is tough with
Yeah.
Canadians, and there's a little bit going back and forth. I mean, I went up to Canada last year to do a film.
Right.
I was the only non-Canadian
Right.
in the entire production
Wow,
because
that is
all the tax
interesting.
incentives are for locals.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so
Yeah.
they had one space for an American. So that means not only did I have to win my role, but it also had to be so good that they didn't spend their one ticket on
Right.
someone else in another role.
Well, you were good.
That's
Michael.
flattering.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
We use our
were
one
good.
for
Vice
Michael.
versa.
That's the other
was
perspective.
good, yeah.
Because I'm coming at it from the poor Canadian.
no, but what I mean is it kind of works that way in
Right.
reverse for you when you're coming this way.
Yes.
That
yes.
a lot of times it means putting somebody up.
To Hollywood.
That's
from
true.
All over to so I mean I don't say I understand that's why it's strict, but it's different because it's like I feel like everybody's coming here for
Right.
that one thing.
I
you know?
always was a little bit envious of people that lived in the States
Huh.
because they were not going. Yeah, they were not going in. They were not having to hop a border. So I was like, I had a friend of mine. He was from upstate New York, and he went to theater school with me. He hopped the border to come to our school.
Yeah, not far away.
I was gonna say, it's
It's
very
not
close.
a geographic thing.
No.
It's just like
And
Yeah.
then he was able to move to LA or New York, like no problem. And then here am I going, listen, the fact that you highlighted stuff that truly you saw through it because it's a blur sometimes for me because it's a story that was a long time ago. But thank you because
it's big, and you deserve credit
thank you
for it.
because
Because
that was really
Absolutely.
and this is hard too. I worked on a talk show one time, and Gladys Knight. I never risk being a name dropper for a moment, but like, I say this for this reason, because we asked her, "How do you explain your success?" And she said, the truth is, the most talented people don't always get it.
Mm.
And sometimes
believe
if you're
that.
really, really talented, you just have to stick at it and be determined enough until they find you. And I'll never forget that, because she said, there are people who are more talented than me. And when you hear a name like that say, there's people more talented than me who haven't got the opportunity, it is the reminder for all of us when we're in that journey, right? Like, stay on it. If this is what you, because the truth is, if we were anything else, if we were a little more sane and this wasn't what we loved, we would totally bail.
I totally
And
say
that's
the same
and I've
thing.
come across people like
True.
that, because I've
Yeah.
come here, well, from Maryland, from the States,
Right.
but I've come over here, and she knows my journey, obviously, because she helped me.
Right.
But it was one of those things where I was like, I need to leave Maryland because California is calling Los Angeles is calling my name. I've been wanting to get into television, and this is what I've always wanted to do since I was little. And I was also, you know, theater, dance, like all the fun, all that creative stuff.
about
Right.
Yeah,
And I mean, I was the supportive mom to say, yes, do it.
But that is
Let's do
my
it.
second part to this. My
Right.
first part is I had a lot of people who I've met who couldn't stick it out, or they didn't want to stick it out, or it was like, I got to go back home. I tried, whatever. And that's
Right.
fine. I mean, everybody has their own reasons. But I was like, I don't care if I'm sleeping on couches and doing XYZ. I need to get out there, because this is what I came out here. I left
Right.
Maryland to come out here. I can't just go back and be like, well, I didn't get that one job, or I tried for a month.
Right.
But my second part is about having supportive parents, because I think that can also get discouraging too if you do not have that in your pocket, because I think that's amazing that your parents were there and supporting your vision
in the
because-
right in the best way
Yeah.
humanly possible.
That's
Like
very
not
big.
in very big, because
Yes.
it wasn't in a pushy way. It was in a supportive. My mother was very open about how proud she was, and I always had to tell people, this is not a stage mother.
Right.
This is a mother that's trying to,
Yep.
you know, she always stood back.
Right.
I was leading the way. I was in charge, you know, but she was always there to advocate, you know.
Which is
I have
great.
so many stories, actually. So many amazing. I'll come back another day.
Yeah.
All of that.
For part two.
To a Vivian's life.
Well, actually, to that
Mhm.
to that state, as we're talking about this, you have an album.
Yes.
So this is, you know, kind of the thing that really the world should be paying attention to in this phase of your life. That's how I'm going to phrase it.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the time to talk about your album. So
Mhm.
maybe you could share with us and our audience
Why?
your album and then why.
And the why. Okay,
Yeah.
so the interesting part about the album is that when I made the decision to come out essentially as a recording artist, singer-songwriter, you know, despite the fact that I have been dancing and acting my entire life, and you know, I could have gone down that theater road, or I could have really pursued the theater thing. I always had that inkling, that really that fire, that thing inside of me that wanted to. The best way I can say it is that this is probably going to sound very weirdly interesting. My inspirations growing up were Liza Minnelli and Judy Garland. So
Great
it was-
inspiration. Yes, yes.
They weren't, you know,
Yeah.
when I was coming up, it was, you know, the Christina Aguileras and the, you know, the Britneys and stuff. And I loved it. I wanted that. I did. But really, when I went back into my soul and I said, who was it? It was the legends. It was the greats. And although I never want to come across and say like what we have now, or we don't have that now, there are beautiful, amazing artists that are doing incredible things now. The thing that I've always have gravitated towards has been things 30 to 40 years or 50 years before my birth, you know, and it was from a childhood.
Right.
So when I decided to create this, I'm sure there was a lot of musical theater influence and that theatrical thing in me. But I said, you know, I went to my producer and we were talking about, well, where do we put you? You know, you have like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do it like, you know, but you don't necessarily want to be doing it all. You want to hone in on what you are. And if I had to narrow it down, everything that I was although Liza and Judy are not disco. Well, Liza was a little bit, but
Yeah.
but Judy wasn't disco, and she wasn't around actually for the disco stuff. I went back into who I was listening to when I was 10, 11, 12, and it was Gloria Gaynor. It was the Bee Gees. And I'm exact. I mean, the best disco song of all time.
Definitely.
And she's still doing her thing. I'm like, hi, Gloria.
Yeah.
Hi. Look at me. No, I do talk to her on Instagram. I feel very proud about that.
We had a chance to be on stage together.
Oh my God.
Wait, you were on stage together?
No,
I was like, that's amazing.
I need
Hey, I'm gonna speak that.
Put it out there.
We're speaking into existence.
But I think that's cool because look, sometimes these genres, we don't want them to die, right? So I think that to take some, which everything you're taking something from before anyway, but I think to give a fresh take and again, listening to your music that I just heard, it kind of, I was like, all right, I can write this.
I love it.
I love the way the talking starts,
Yeah.
Started talking.
Yeah.
Yes. I still have, there's 9 songs that are still coming out.
Oh, wow.
So we're releasing that in after the holidays in January. The industry kind of shuts down.
Yes.
We all know that.
It's so interesting too.
We all know that, yeah.
People don't realize from the outside, but our business has a very specific cycle.
Yeah.
And you do not want to go against the cycle and be in the dead period because you will get lost or people will frown on it. It's like, oh, well, you either didn't take it serious or it wasn't a real project because you put it out at the wrong time. It's like you weren't paying attention. But that means we're all fighting over the same time.
Exactly.
So it's a really complex thing. Right. Every business has kind of its weird, kind of counterculture and timelines and things. And ours is so unique. And it's such a challenge, so, kind of spacing out. And then to do something bold and to do something that is slightly historic, but really kind of individualistic and creative, like taking elements from the past and turning it into your own, you're really going to be a trailblazer because I think other people are going to follow you if they listen.
Thank you. I love you. Where do I start? It was, but truly when I decided to do this, when I decided to do disco, out of all things, my producer looked at me and he said, I'm like, I got it. I got it. I pondered and I thought about it. And this is what and when we incorporate everything that I am, disco. And I said it to him, we're going to do disco. And he goes, what? Like that. It was literally this, like, what? Are you okay? And I said, well, first of all, and this is totally not the reason I decided, but I was hearing it in the music a little bit. And but from the standpoint of obviously you want to evolve and you want to progress in music, that's why we evolve and progress progressive sounds in music. Everyone wants to hear something essentially new and different. But because that time was so iconic and because that time has not, I really did my research on it. It never was lost. It was always in the music from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. There were disco beats. Jamiroquai actually was ahead of his time in the 90s. And unfortunately, what he was doing was so cool, and I still find it to be so cool, but I find him to be ahead of his time. I feel like right now we're in a pocket where we could really benefit from something, yes, historical. Yes, I did a couple of spins on it. It's pretty disco-y, like at the end of it. But I think people are really jonesing for it, something like, and the disco balls where you're seeing it everywhere, and the roller skating, So I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
And look
Look at her.
Yeah, I mean, things are cyclical, right? But we have to make them modern. We have to you look at every great civilization through history. Right. They borrowed from what came before them, and then they built on it. And music is no different. Right. And then you have such a I don't even know the right way to describe your voice because it's powerful and there's kind of a real strong, almost kind of a smoky, jazzy disco,
I noticed that too.
right?
Yeah.
But at the
yeah.
same time, it doesn't feel old or
Right.
it doesn't feel like you're trying to do that. It just feels like it's you.
I think you're nailing the whole, and I didn't talk about this, but this old soul person
Yeah.
that, if whether people believe in that, I did not. I'm not from this time. Like, there's so many things that resonate. I keep, like, in light of you being on Roseanne, I'm turning on, like, the TV Land channel and going, home.
I know.
Yeah.
And again, progressiveness obviously so important, but there was something so special about that time. And the future generations, I kind of want to be that person going, look at this. It made me feel so good. It made me feel so safe,
Yeah.
Warm, fun.
Warm,
Yeah.
fun, yes.
And you don't hear disco tracks where people are like, even if they don't love disco, you've never heard a disco track where you're like, oh man, that turned me off or it made me uncomfortable.
You can't.
That's
Right?
true.
Like-
That's true.
Even people who don't love it go, hey, that's a good, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like other forms of music where people really have this kind of push away.
True.
There's a
True.
warmth to it. And I think we're missing that in society as a whole, whether it be in any kind of entertainment, is we're missing that thing where a whole family can listen to songs, a whole family can listen and watch a television show, a movie. Some of that old school kind of grounded, heartfelt, community-based, have a good time, let yourself loose and enjoy what's going on.
Yeah.
That's rare. And so I think it's a beautiful thing to tap into.
It was happening around the time of when we were children and watching television and listening to music. There was a wholesomeness there. And I said, ironically, you were on the show. I keep saying that, but it was that time. I know we're talking about disco, but even if disco was late 70s and went into early 80s, but that 70s, 80s, 90s, there was something so unique about it. And to be honest with you, the fact that it's trending and people, that were born in the year 2000 are wanting to dress like 90s and 2000s, right?
Oh my gosh, I know. I walked into Target and I was like,
What is going
buying my
on?
old clothes.
It's all the stuff that you gave away or sold,
I
right?
wore in high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in high school. I was wearing like those platform,
Yes. Yep.
But that's the thing; it all comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also, my thing is like, we've talked about this before with music being kind of like a source of like feeling very therapeutic, or you can listen to a song and it kind of takes you can breathe and smell that moment too from hearing that song. I was curious because you do write. Where does like the inspiration of like your lyrics come from?
So specifically for this record, the same way I wanted to bring that sound back, I wanted to bring substance back. And the main inspiration, without me giving away, because music is up for interpretation and it's essentially subjective, and I don't want to necessarily say this was the meaning behind it. A lot of the influence was New York City, 1979. Other clubs, but I'm going to say Studio 54. But I really, really,
No, this is back at my time. That's why I'm like,
listen, your time is my time.
yeah, 70s definitely was my time for
Yeah.
partying.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was this electricity, and this. I was not alive yet, but
Yeah.
I wish I was. But I tried to tap into as much as I could artistically, what it would have felt like being in that space. The songs, each song has an individual. I will say one thing, but I won't say which one it is. One of them is the story of I Will Survive. It is the story that most people probably don't know of what happened. A little bit, it was she was going to be dropped from her label. And that song, which is the #1 disco song of all time to this day,
It is.
was supposed to be on the B side of the record.
Wow.
And what she did was she advocated for herself. like a strong woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to Studio 54 and she asked the DJ to play it. And so in my lyrics, so in my lyrics, it's I guess I'm giving the whole thing away.
Don't give it away.
Oh my God, I'm so bad at this.
Don't give it away.
I won't give it away.
Just
Just listen.
yeah.
Listen.
Listen to it. Don't give
But
it
it does allude to something very
let the people tell.
let the people,
Yeah,
it's something about the DJ, but
Right.
you'll hear it when you
Let the people tell you.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit because we are a show that highlights a lot of rare diseases, chronic illnesses, mental health and such. And so you've been very vocal about speaking about your mom and going through pancreatic cancer. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your journey with our audience.
Of course. So this was the journey itself. Obviously I'm here and I have no problems talking about. We talked a little bit before about, the advocacy for it and the importance of it to have people understand, early detection and what to look for, right? Personally and emotionally, this actually, before anything happened, this would have been I'm never talking about this. Like if I'm I keep everything tucked away and I talk to my 4 people that I trust, that are very close in my life, including obviously my amazing husband. And I cry and I do all of that privately. And I'm not really the type, whatever anyone else that wants to do is completely fine. I'm just not the type of person that necessarily goes and does it openly. I've always been that way, right? When this happened, it was so important to me through the process because I was recording my record. And it was that transformative state of recording that record took me into a transformative space of evolving myself and stepping out of my comfort zones. So I'll answer the question, but it really important for me to say that this wasn't natural for me until the thing happened, and that kind of jumped me to.
I get it because a couple of years ago, I would never have talked about a lot of this stuff. Jada and I kind of talked about this too, but like I had a son who came into my life that I lost. And that triggered me to be much more open. And having talked to his older sister, she's like, Dad, you should share this because if you can help one family.
Right.
And man, that opened a floodgate for me where I had previously spent, I don't know, almost 30 years of my professional life being the silent warrior and keeping everything in. And I was, like you said, I'm all in to support anybody else sharing theirs. I was all for like, I'll listen, I'll give you love, I'll give you support.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't sharing.
No.
And people didn't know. And
Right.
so I think it's beautiful to have that strength come out.
Thank you.
And I think it shines through some of the music too. I think it starts to you open your heart in a different way.
Yeah, the record was being made while the diagnosis happened. So we were not done. So we had to, my mother was asking me, begging me. She knew me very well, obviously. It was her daughter. And she said, do not stop. Do not stop. She knew I would stop. She knew I would stop. I would go home. I wouldn't, She said, do the exact opposite of what you want to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did your mom have any type of symptoms that, you noticed or that she noticed that was something that kind of prompted her and you to seek professional, medical help?
Yeah, she actually started feeling pain in her back. And that usually comes very late in the prognosis. So it was unusual that she felt it at that time. And she was stage 1B. So those little things, and I have to add that my mother was very conscious of her feelings. Like, I have a headache. I have, she was very conscious. Not hypochondriac, but just somebody who felt things and spoke. And I think that people are not, they're busy, they're running through their lives. They're not thinking of, the mindfulness isn't there of the body, and the temple and what we need to be taken care of for the temple that we are essentially, our souls are living in, you know? And that's something that she had, which allowed her to have the months that she had. Because if it would have been stage 4, it could have been weeks.
Right.
You know, she lived about almost, it was a year after the first diagnosis, which is pretty usual for pancreatic, except that it was caught at 1B, you know, which usually people catch it at stage 4. So that's what I would say from the standpoint of you asking me, what was it? Like,
Right.
what, you know, it was backache. There was a little bit of cramping in the stomach, in the back. And it was an ongoing, like, pushing feeling.
Pushing feeling where?
In the back.
Oh, in her back.
In her back. And so she went for a CT scan.
Mm-hmm.
It came back fine. Nothing, no cancer. She was, you know, like, no way could that have happened.
Right.
You know? And after that, she advocated for herself. And she said, no, this is unusual. This is strange. My sister happens to be a physician.
Oh.
And her, my brother-in-law is an anesthesiologist. So, I mean, you know, she's now going to advocate to my sister.
Right.
And saying, we need to look further into this. And when they looked further into it, they found the mass there.
Wow.
So, you know, and like any other cancer, you know, pancreatic is they say it's a death sentence. They say when you get pancreatic cancer or diagnosis, it's considered a death sentence.
Wow.
Even through hearing that or knowing that, like, in the back of my mind, I put it so far back that I couldn't even look at it, you know?
Right.
The thing for me was, for me to get through it was, that's not, my mother can never die from cancer, you know? And I think a lot of people have that, you know, a not me kind of thing. Like, that can happen to that family, but not to my family. So a little bit at the beginning, there was that self-preservation and that warrior woman that I saw in front of me my whole life that led me. I led her, she led me. Like, there was that synergy between us. How could she, at 7, she got diagnosed at 70. How, when everybody in the community would look at my mom and say she's going to live till she's about 120, you know? She was that kind of a fireball. You know, she walked into a room, you were in love with her. It didn't, like, anybody, you know? So I actually had to, like, kind of go, like, become a little quieter around my mother, because my mother was such a ball of energy and fun and fire. Best way I can describe her. So anyway, that was the way, at least I coped with it when she, at the beginning. It wasn't denial. It was, I know this,
Right.
but I'm not going there.
Right. You wasn't ready to go there. You
No.
you didn't want to believe that.
No.
You knew it, but you didn't want to believe that it was your mom.
It couldn't happen to
Yeah.
my mom. I still sit here saying that, like, and she's
Right.
not with me anymore. And I'm still going, how? I wake up and look at my husband and I'm like, how could this be
Yeah.
real? You know, but I'm not even a year out. So,
Right.
yeah, any other thing that I can answer and,
No, I
you
mean,
know?
the one thing I say is be patient with yourself,
Right.
because grief comes in waves, and having experienced a lot of grief, and I've actually lost 2 people that I know from pancreatic cancer, and one of them literally found out days. I mean, it was days.
Oh my gosh.
Because most people don't know.
No.
So early
until-
detection.
Well, there's usually not early detection, and
Not with this.
advocacy
Yeah.
is something most people would chalk up back pain or a little bit of pressure with, oh, I'm getting older, or, like, we give ourselves a million excuses.
We self-diagnose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
excuse, right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
Justify.
Yeah.
And the fact that your mom did that and fought is, you know, speaks a lot of her awareness, but it also speaks a lot of kind of like her willingness to be bold. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we hope in this show is to encourage people to be bold, to ask
Yeah.
tough questions, to be willing to advocate for
That's
yourself,
true.
because
Right.
that's a huge part.
Right.
And then for the grief part, what I would tell you is it comes in waves. And I say this to you publicly, but also, like, you can send me messages anytime if there's ever anything for you or your husband that I can do to support, because grief comes in different forms and we all process it different. And I would say your music probably was a beautiful way to express some of that and to process some of that. So it probably helped even more so maybe than you knew at the time.
I think it helped me. I know that it helped me, but I think in a couple of years from now, I may understand even better how much it helped me.
Yeah.
You know, I know it did, but I'm in like this, like, I feel like I'm in this, like, I want to talk about this and I want to, but I'm surviving. You know?
Agreed. And
Yeah.
that's normal. So don't
Right.
don't judge it. What I would
Right.
always tell people is like we try, and people around you sometimes, even well intentioned, will try to get you to move on
Right.
because it's easier for the other people. And it's really hard. Like, people need to be really patient to understand that everybody grieves at their own speed and their own process and their own way. And we can't judge other people's, or we can't rush people through those stages because they come at their own pace, right? So be patient with yourself. And
Yeah.
I look at grief as a gift, and that comes from a lot of it, experiencing tons of it. And what I would tell you is that's a unique view, but I think it's a gift. I think it's all the love that we didn't get to physically express at the time and share, but that you can still express and hold on to and give and share. And then I love what you've done with your album, because part of this is an investment towards helping, towards
Yeah,
raising
absolutely.
awareness and helping raise
Mhm.
attention and some money for cancer, and to dedicate your album in that way.
Yes.
Because I think what we should do with our grief or with our trauma is let it become our mission. Let it become the driving force for something beautiful so that it has a value.
Yeah.
And
It's
I love
not
that.
a self-serving value.
Right.
Yeah, especially as being an artist, it's like you have a dream. I have a dream. I have this. I want to do this. You know, yes, we want to do it to share a message to the audience, right? But at the same time, there is a self-serving. It starts with
Okay.
self-serving. It starts serving ourselves,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
A dream starts within. But from the standpoint of my mom, I just want to even tell you, in light of what you just said, the day before she passed, that album was being played in her ear as she was unconscious.
Oh, wow.
And I sang to her. And I played her Romanian music that she also grew up with. But my whole album got done, mastered, while, like, maybe 3 days prior to her death. So it was being played for her. And from the standpoint of advocacy and being able to, I dedicated Millennium Force, which was my second single, to F Cancer, and all the proceeds are going towards F Cancer. And we did a whole like social media
Right.
tribute to it. The entire, that specific song, but the entire record obviously is for my mother, and for the fact that, you know, she passed away while I was making the ultimate thing she would have wanted to see, you know? So
And then
yeah.
she got to hear it.
She got to hear it.
The
Yeah.
timing of it is she
Yeah,
got to hear it
absolutely.
physically here,
Physically.
Yes.
Physically.
which
Yep.
is, there's a beautiful synchronistic kind of full circle element to that,
Yeah.
because she pushed you in that way
Yeah.
and supported you on that journey
While she was fighting the hardest journey of her life,
and got to hear it,
and got to hear it.
right?
So I can't have cancer. I need to go to the Grammys. That
Right.
statement was the, you know, to tie up her life from the standpoint of everything that she did other than me, you know, supporting me and making me. The fact that she said that, you know, it meant so much to her. I believe she is with me. I believe she will be at the Grammys with me, and I will say her name. But the fact that this record is a testament to her saying, do not stop.
Right.
And that is the do not stop in the entertainment business. Do not stop when things are the worst moments of your life, you know, which prior to this likely would have stopped.
Right.
Likely my character is family. My character is drop it, go, you know? So the fact that it was you are not allowed to come back home. You have to finish this record. And then it was finished. It was finished, I believe it was 2 or 3 days prior. And it was played in her ear and she passed the next day.
Wow.
See,
Yeah.
I mean, this was named Lovesick because of Jada, but I can't help but think like that is loving someone.
That's
through their
true.
sickness. This is
That's it.
her being sick and loving you enough to say, no, no, no. I love you so much. You got to go finish.
Right. She almost gave her like permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do this, you know.
It's like the
It's
ultimate.
okay.
You're a mom,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, if you know, this is your daughter.
Right.
Your daughter is going to be doing something very big with your life. I'm assuming the first thing that you would say is go.
Oh,
You have to
definitely I
create.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely I would.
I just think it's just that I'm not a mom yet. So from the testament of having that motherly love, that has been going through my mind the entire time. I was loved
Right.
so hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the sadness that that kind of love, although I hold on to,
Yeah.
is not replaceable. That stuff.
But that's what keeps you going though.
Yes, it does.
Because you
Yeah.
know that you were loved and you know you don't want to disappoint. You want to keep going because you know that that's what she would want for you.
I hear her
Right.
yelling in
Yeah.
my brain,
Yeah.
yelling at me. That's what I hear.
Right. She believed in you.
She believed in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you believed in yourself.
I did.
And
I
that's
did.
why she believed in you because you believed in you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing with my mom and my dad, they're both immigrants. So the fact that they were capable of, yes, believing in me, but facilitating the
Yes.
talent,
Yes.
paying for the
Right.
classes. You know, like a lot of people. Okay, you know, I'm a star. No, my parents sacrificed
Right.
almost like everything. You know, they came with $600 in their pocket. You know, and they built a massive life for themselves in Canada. So this is where I look at these two people and I feel like the luckiest person on this planet because I had those two people by my side. So yes, I was in the driving seat, but we as children don't have necessarily. You were working.
That's
But,
true.
but my dad's an immigrant.
There you go.
And
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
thing is he and my grandparents came here for a better life.
Yep.
My life is not possible almost anywhere else. So this crazy journey that people know of me, even the bits that they know, because there's lots they don't, like that is a testament to people being willing to change their whole life,
Yeah.
to who give me these opportunities, to support me on that journey.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you know, I think a lot of times people have a tendency now, especially in our country,
Right.
to start thinking about immigrants as if they were generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, for you and I,
I'm first generation.
it's right. We're
Yeah.
first generation. It's like this is new, and there's a
Right.
lot more people who are like that than people realize.
right.
Right.
This experiment of moving everyone together and coming together. This is a young nation, and
Yeah.
our experiences are young, and they're very flawed if we look at our history.
Right.
But that being said, there is a beauty here. And it's why it's so imperative for us to express things through art, to impose ourselves on the rules and laws because we are still fledgling in many ways, and it's still a chance to improve it and let it live up to the idea of in which it was founded. And that we have to maintain this thing kind of globally of people should be able to pursue their gifts, pursue their art, pursue their blessings. But it's always been the case where that starts at home.
Yeah, it's very true.
True.
It's very true. It's very true. I feel very sad for, but then there's the other side, you know, especially in Hollywood, where, you know, some parents like to live through.
Yep. Like
Real
stage
look at
moms.
Jada and I both.
You're like, well,
But you know, I was
that's
never
so
the stage type mom. I was just always in the background,
Yeah.
but always making sure that I supported because I believed in her.
Right.
You know, because that is my daughter. I totally believed in anything.
Right.
Even if she says, I want to do this, and it could have been whatever type of industry,
Right.
I knew she was going to succeed in it regardless of
Right.
what it was.
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that motherly love, that motherly love.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
a lot of kids don't. There's so many stories. You know,
That's true.
Yeah.
so many stories of some crazy.
I mean, I've talked about this before with Michael, but I'm like, you turn out to be a good one because
Yeah,
people don't always have.
Yeah,
But I'm saying,
because
like,
he's got the
the ones who
fatherly
party
love
with their
too.
parents
Yeah.
because they were living this life. You know, it's a different life.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own way. I mean, look,
That's
we
true.
all make
Yeah.
mistakes. What I would tell you in my case is, Jada and I talk about this all the time, is like, I've tried really hard, especially to be a good dad. And sometimes I joke, I think I had kids early that may have saved me from being a train wreck that I probably
Yeah.
could have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was so dedicated to being a good dad.
Right.
And I have this belief that it's kind of an unconditional job and that it's not supposed to be totally reciprocal. I think it's one of the places for me, a little bit of a soapbox, but I think it's where society is starting to get it wrong, is people are starting to treat their kids like they're a commodity or live vicariously through them or feel like they're a status symbol or vice versa, which is, I don't really need to invest that much time. They'll do it on their own. I'm going to keep being me and do my own thing. And the reality is they didn't choose to come here. I chose to bring those kids here. And I started young because I was 18.
Right.
And so it was the greatest decision I ever made. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would
Right.
start over tomorrow with the right help, right partnership, right?
Right.
But like, to me, there's nothing better than being a parent. And your story, and I think it pervades your music, right? It's going to pervade every aspect of who you are. Her love is eternal, and
Right.
it's going to shine through you, and it shined through this whole interview.
Yeah.
It's going to always be that thing that pushes you. And that's the beautiful gift of having a loving parent. I mean, I see it with Jada from Dot. Like,
Yeah.
when you watch good parents, I tell people all the time, I'll know if I did a good job when my kids grow up, if they want to spend time with me.
Right.
So I just took a trip with my two kids, and we met. They're both in college, and we met overseas. And
Which I
I was
think is
walking
really
around.
awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted them to
Yeah.
have an experience. I never had that.
Yeah.
Right? My kids got to do this because my parents couldn't provide that when I was
Right.
young.
Right.
And we're walking through a foreign city looking at history, and I'm thinking to myself, how lucky am I that my kids as 20-somethings are choosing to spend time with their dad,
Yeah,
Right.
That's great.
or that we're doing like family photos and
Right.
and they're the driving force,
Right.
right? I was like,
In another country.
yeah. My son's like, we're all getting dressed up. Like, he was adamant, everybody bring nice clothes. We're all
Nice.
getting,
Oh, that's
and I
nice.
started laughing because I'm going, I don't know how we became these people, but I'm in.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But it fuels your art,
It does.
because all I did the whole time was go, oh, this is a great movie idea. Oh, this is a story. I
Right.
came back with Jada and was like, I got a million ideas for the podcast, for this,
Right.
and for our other projects. It motivates you. It inspires you.
Right. Right.
And I think when we do it right, good parents are a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel them even when they're not
not
around,
there.
even when they're not there, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the confidence and the support of knowing they're gonna love me. Like with your mom, as you're doing this album, she's saying, go get that done.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a motivator, there's a support structure. So even though she's fighting, at the same time you're
Right.
fighting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you're also fighting for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to learn from someone to fight for you,
Ooh, that's
because I don't
In the
think
Good one.
word.
That's a
but
big one.
Yes.
You nailed it. You really I could not have put it together like that. And I
Right.
was in the situation. So that was amazing. It was fighting for me
Right.
while wanting to fight for her simultaneously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have any other siblings?
I do. Yeah, my sister.
Sister.
My
Okay.
sister who's
Oh, that's right.
yes,
you did
yes, yes.
mention. Yes, your sister is.
My sister was fighting
nurse.
a whole other battle
Right.
because she was the physician.
Right.
So I mean, from the understanding of what was going on and the realism,
Mm-hmm.
I had the liberty of there's a realist. I have a business as well, so there's the feet are on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have the artist. So to do this is not, it's easy, to go to, but for somebody that sees that, lives that, is that, took the oath of that, to carry that understanding and then have it be her mother and then have to call her sister up and be like, I think that because she was saying, maybe you should come. And I'm like, Mom is saying not to come, and
Right.
finish it. She's like, well, maybe we could do it. Like, she didn't want to pull me out of it, but she had this like heaviness, this knowing that was that I had, but I was going a little bit like that, So that was a whole different battle that she
Right.
had to fight. As a family, my father was she's not going to die.
Right.
There was this whole, she's not going to die. She's not going to die the entire time. Going through all the actions of every single thing, God bless him, every single thing she needed by her side. But there was that up until she went to palliative, it was, she's not, this isn't happening,
Right.
and we were getting a little concerned at that point because we were like, I don't think he's processing this as
Right.
I when I was with her in the final 4 months. So there was when I finished it, sent it to mastering, went home.
Mm.
We were together. I was literally living in the hospital for 4 months.
Right.
Prior to that, every single day we were sleeping there. It was like we were chained there.
Yeah.
People don't realize how hard that is.
Yeah, that's gotta be.
I don't think people have any concept.
Mentally, too,
yeah,
it has
every
to be.
part of it.
Yeah.
Time passes different in the hospital.
Yes.
Spent a lot of time in a hospital setting, and I'm actually on a palliative care team. So people don't understand. Time changes.
Yeah.
Everything moves different.
There's no world.
No, the world kind of stops,
Yeah.
but time goes really fast, but also goes painfully slow and kind of stops too.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never considered, but you gave me good perspective, like for your sister, because being on the medical side, a lot of the stuff, and I don't know that we always give doctors enough credit because they're taught a level of kind of removal of dissidence, but some of that's probably necessary because you deal with the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's your parent,
Yes.
That's a different
you
level.
know the
Totally different.
statistics,
Different
you
level,
know,
Totally different.
or you know the gravity of some of the decisions that are being made,
Mhm.
and somehow you have to navigate that almost like you almost have to find a level of either naivete or dissidence because you have to be able to kind of guard yourself and walk through it still as the daughter.
Yeah.
Right.
As the
She had to be
child.
the doctor and the daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
And see, she's a medical professional, so she knew
Yeah.
what was coming next. And to have to think about that and then to discuss it with you and trying to find a way to balance it out. She knew what was coming.
She
Yeah.
4 weeks prior to her death,
Mm.
my sister had a meltdown in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I looked at my husband I'm like, she said it. I don't think she would remember. Maybe she does. I don't know. I have
Right.
to ask her. But what she said, they wanted to move her room. And my mother was having she was, I don't want to. She was having the chemo also does stuff to, people.
Mhm.
And she was being a little bit, I don't want to. And they needed to move her room for another
Yeah.
patient.
Mhm.
And my sister started crying in the hall to the doctors and nurses, and there was like 4 or 5 of them around her.
Mhm.
She was like, my mother is dying. That's what she was saying. And I'm like,
Right.
my mother is like, I want like to eat this. Like she was like semi not in the place that she was in the last, I would say 2 weeks,
Okay.
And she said that's what she melted down. And so it was weeks prior to her knowing when she would pass away.
Mm.
So there was a knowing and, the burden she had to bear.
Sure.
Yeah.
My father always said it afterwards when he was like, that burden was probably tougher than we all have it bad, but that's not easy.
Right.
No, we all grieve different, and we all carry all these
Yeah.
burdens
True.
different. And I always try to tell people that's why you got to be compassionate. You have
Yes.
to be kind to people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, transitioning back to your music, because this has informed you.
Yeah.
And now I think kind of how that's going to shape some of the next stuff that
I
comes
know.
for you.
Yes.
So what is that next
The
thing?
next stuff.
Like what's the next part? I know after the early part of the year, early in in 2024,
Yes.
the rest of the songs will come out.
Yes.
So the world will kind of get to see all.
The whole disco world of Vivian.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what are you motivated for next? What's the
Well,
next stage?
The next, I'm already in a little bit of a process to start. I have a lot of stuff written, obviously, from this experience.
Right.
And I think, the direction it's going to go, and again, it could change, but the place that I feel it's going is like a stripped down version of me, where that had a lot of music and the sounds of, iconic sounds of disco in it. If I don't I'm still in a teeter totter with it, but definitely retro, likely 60s sounding stuff. Because I'm a retro singer, I would say I'm a vintage person, but I really want it to be stripped down. I want it to be that here's the voice, here's the message. Music is obviously not very important and it drives me like crazy. But something with a piano and not as big, not as loud, without me giving too much away. But yeah, that's something a little bit more introspective, I would say.
And where can people find you? I want people to hear your voice. I want people to find you, but I also want people to find you on social
absolutely.
media. So maybe you could share for our audience.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, Vivian Nicole Tesler, very easy. Also on TikTok, Vivi Nikki T. They would not give me my name.
It's
So I
funny
had to-
sometimes.
How
like,
dare on them.
I know.
Dare them.
So I had to do Vivi Nikki T. All right. So maybe that would be the new moniker.
Right.
There you go. That's your
Yeah.
next
You might be thanking them later for that.
Right? Thanks, TikTok. Yeah, I'm not really on Snapchat. I stick to the Instagram and the and the
Okay.
TikTok.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was so excited to have you here.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I can
for
stay
sharing
the
your
whole
story.
day.
We can talk though.
We'll have to do a part
We might get kicked out, but
yeah.
We have to do a part
And I
two
have to
for
tell you, the music's beautiful.
It is.
Your voice really shines. Your willingness to share will help other people.
Yes.
And the things you said, I think, will resonate with people. And I think it's
Mhm.
so important. People who are on their own journey,
Yeah.
people who are loving their own loved ones through their
Right.
journey. And then for those of us who kind of have been through some parts of this, is grief is, I think, also should be a community thing.
Yeah.
I think we hide away because people get uncomfortable and because people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And if we could take that stigma away a little bit, I think it would really, really help people and help mental health. And it starts with conversations like this, for you being brave and open and kind.
absolutely.
I'm
That's
incredibly
beautiful.
thankful.
I'm thankful that there is a platform that I
Yes.
can be incredibly open on because
Right.
and you guys made it so natural and easy and I just
Oh,
want to
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I mean, if you'll have me again, I'll come back again. But
Oh, of course. Yeah.
we will.
And I'm going to tell you right now, these two are going to be playing your music nonstop. Because they already.
go dance party.
I know, right?
You're gonna take me back to the 70s.
oh, I'm gonna take me. I wanted
You're
to
gonna
be
take
there.
me back to the 70s, right?
But I did want to say one thing. I want to say, just to follow up on what you just said, quickly. For anybody that feels that they are reserved about it, I get you. I understand you 100%. If we can step out of our comfort zones and do some good from
Right.
something that happened to us that is not necessarily the best thing ever, I know that, our loved ones would be proud of us. My mother would be proud of me. So this was an opportunity for me to grow, and I took it.
Yeah.
And I hope that it inspires other people to do the same thing, because I know what it feels like to be quiet.
Yeah. Well, it will. So we're so happy that you were here, and our condolences to you, your family, and but you've helped hopefully save somebody's life just by hearing your journey.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And your music.
And your
And
music.
Yeah, seriously.
And more to come.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank
on
you.
Lovesick.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.